today's culture talk, and no promises that I'm going to be within the time frame. So if you need to leave right on the hour, feel free to do so. But there's a lot I want to unpack in light of these extraordinary circumstances we find ourselves in. And the first thing that I wanted to share is that we are in perilous times for the world. And by perilous, the definition of perilous is full of danger or risk. And I want to just unpack some of the risks that all of us face. The first is the risk associated with the coronavirus itself and our health. And that obviously is a significant risk to each one of us. The second is the risk of food shortages. And I'm sure all of us have heard in the news of in different places a run on grocery stores, but there's a risk of food shortages and our general safety at a time like this. The third is there's the risk worldwide of job losses and obviously financial instability in the markets. And the fourth risk is the risk of our own mental, emotional well-being caused by fear, anxiety, worry, loneliness, etc. And so the question for you and each one of us and we as PGC is, how will we respond? How will we respond? And I was debating whether to share this with you, but decided that I would. Some of you may know that our family is in Peru presently. And we left for Peru just before Canada came down. We were en route as Canada came down with we recommend you not leave the country. And we came to Peru, and Peru was actually quite laxed at the time in terms of how they were handling the coronavirus. It was kind of life as usual. And in one of our first nights here, they announced, rather suddenly, the president announced, well, first of all, we came here to Peru to hike the Machu Picchu trails. And for those of you who aren't familiar with Machu Picchu, it's the legendary lost city of the Inca people. And the president of Peru a few days ago suddenly announced without warning that he was locking down the country and that no one was going to be allowed in or out of the country for the next 15 days. He also announced that they would be shutting down all businesses, all restaurants, and at first all hotels, and that everything would be closed effective the following night. We attempted to get flights out. In fact, we spent thousands of dollars on flights before they announced that they were closing the borders, and our flights became null and void at that point in time. We've been on with the airlines, and the airlines are only offering a credit for the thousands of dollars that were spent on our plane flights. Fortunately, the following day after the lockdown started, they announced that they would allow hotels to be able to continue to operate because there were tens of thousands of tourists in Peru. And so we find ourselves in a unique position as we're out of our home country and we're in Peru. The lockdown is such that the streets are empty. In fact, just show you, don't know if you'll be able to see this. I'm just going to come outside for a second and see if you can see the streets here. And so what was in our first few days, by the way, it is a beautiful view, packed streets. Every street is absolutely empty as the entire country is on a full lockdown. So there are 24 people in our hotel, and many of them are stressed, worried, fearful, as no one knows what's going to happen at the end of the 15-day lockdown and whether the lockdown will be extended further, whether everyone in the country will be permitted to go back to their home countries or not. And the reason I share all of that with you is the reason most of the 24 individuals in our hotel, the reason so many of them feel either stressed, anxious, worried, or fearful is because they feel trapped. And they feel trapped because they've lost their freedom to go home or even to leave the hotel. Fortunately, we're in a spacious hotel with amazing food, beautiful views, and the most, a phenomenal leader, the hotel manager, who has been taking such great care of us and has modeled so many things, so many of the principles and concepts we teach at PGC around leadership. It's just been beautiful to see. I share all of this with you because there's three things in every situations. There's the facts, there's the meaning that we give to the facts, and then there's the feelings that we feel based on the meaning that we've created. So let me say that again. There's number one, the facts in the situation. The fact is we're not permitted to leave the country of Peru at the present time, and we're not permitted to leave the hotel. That's the facts. The meaning is the meaning that we give to the facts. So the meaning that many are giving is we're trapped. And that's a meaning that can then lead to certain feelings. So what feelings do you think you're likely to feel if you feel trapped?
Anxiety.
Anxiety. What else?
Worry.
Stress.
Stress. All of them.
Uncertainty.
Fear.
What was that last one, Brittany?
Fear.
Fear. Yep. All of those don't come out of the facts. They come out of the meaning that we choose to give to the facts, or the perceptions that we have about the facts. And many of you have heard me talk about facts and perceptions, or facts and meaning before, but the perceptions that we give to the events in our lives, or as you've often heard me say, the stories we tell ourselves, the reality that we create for ourselves by the meaning that we give to the facts, determine the feelings that we experience and determines the reality that we then experience. So here's the lesson. The lesson is the simple one. The meaning we give to our circumstances will determine our well-being. Let me say that again. The meaning we give to our circumstances will determine our well-being. And this is significant for each one of us because none of us have control of our present circumstances. And the circumstances are going to continue to change. And I think what's taking place in Peru is likely going to happen, likely, no guarantees, but is likely going to happen in Canada and the US. It's already happened in San Francisco. There's lots of other places that are introducing curfews and that are closing down restaurants and gatherings of more than 50 people. In Ontario, it's now gatherings more than 10 people. But these circumstances are well beyond our control. And for many of us, it's really difficult to accept because we're used to being in control of our own circumstances. We're used to having our full freedoms, and the thought of, in many other countries in the world, it's not the same as what we experience in North America. In North America, we cling to our freedoms. We take great pride in the freedoms that we have. In other countries, they're used to not having, in many other countries, they're used they're used to not having the types of freedoms that we enjoy, especially in countries with dictators or civil wars, etc. But for us, this is unprecedented. And the thought of losing our freedoms is a really difficult one for us. But the fact of the matter is we can't control our circumstances, but we can always control our approach to our circumstances. And how do you control your approach? You control your approach by controlling the meaning that you give to your circumstances, and the meaning will determine your feelings. So here's one way that you can grow through these challenging times. Grow your self-awareness. Grow your self-awareness. Become aware and really present of how you're feeling, and then work backwards. If you're feeling a certain way, go back and ask yourself, what were the facts? And then what was the meaning that I was giving to those facts that are causing me to feel this way? And then determine, are the feelings that you're having helping you or hurting you? Are they feelings that are helping you live the life that you want to experience and live, or are they putting you in a place that you don't want to be? So in other words, if you don't like what you're feeling, change the meaning that you're giving to the circumstances. You're not likely going to be able to change the circumstances, but you can change the meaning. So here's my circumstance. The fact is, we're here in Peru for at least another 14 days unless Canada intervenes, and it sounds like Canada may intervene and may be sending down planes. Israel has already sent over planes. The US is trying to get planes in. There's more people in Peru, I think, than most other countries, based on Machu Picchu being such a highly visited tourist destination. So planes may be coming. But the fact is, we're here in this country for a period of time. The meaning I'm choosing to not give this is that I'm trapped. I just decided that's not going to be the meaning. I hear others in our hotel giving that meaning. I just chose that's not the meaning. That's not the story I'm going to tell myself. The story I'm going to tell, the story I have been telling myself, is a simple one, and it's the easy one for me to believe. Because every holiday, I look for 3 or 4 things. I don't know if you've thought about what you look for on a holiday, but I look for amazing weather. I love great weather. I look for times with my family and being with family. I look for places with amazing food. I just love food. And I love amazing scenery. And then 5th, I love adventures. So as I was going through all of those, I realized I actually still have all 5. I'm on an epic adventure with an unknown outcome in a foreign country, enjoying amazing food with my family, with beautiful views, with fantastic weather. If I choose to focus on those 5 things, I live in a place of complete gratitude moment to moment. If I choose to focus my attention on the fact that I can't leave the country and I can't leave our hotel, then I'll feel frustrated, anxious, worried, fearful. We choose the meaning in every situation in life. And it's not denial. I'm not denying the facts. I'm not living in some dream world. I'm cognizant of the risks. I'm cognizant of the challenges of being in a foreign country. If someone gets sick or gets the coronavirus and having to be in a hospital in Machu Picchu or in Cusco, I'm aware of the risks. But if I focus on that, that will create fear. If I focus on the gifts I have of today and who I'm spending today with and the blessings that today has given me, then I'll be full of joy and full of peace. So it's not denial. It's not living in a dream world. It's just, as Dick DeVenzio said in his book, Smart Moves, live between your own ears. Live between your own ears. It's the best place to live. And it's so easy for us to not live between our own ears in times like these because of what we're reading. All of us, I think, are dialing into the headlines and what's happened in the world in the past 24 hours. And that's where we live. We live on our phones and our computers, and instead of living between our own ears. So the simple decision that I've made is to live in a beautiful state, regardless, no matter what, not just for today, but for tomorrow. And for whatever tomorrow brings, I've made the decision to live in a beautiful state. Now, some of you may ask, that's great. You're living in a beautiful state. What about Kate and the kids? How is your family doing through this time? And here's what I can tell you. They're doing well. They're doing really well. And I think they're doing well because, one, they've embraced the situation, and I continue to remind them of the blessings. But I think one of the reasons they're doing well is because of this, and it's the opportunity that each one of you have as leaders. And you're all leaders in some capacity. You're either a leader in PGC in terms of a team or a department. You're a leader in your family. You're a leader with your spouse. You're a leader with your children. You may be a leader with your friends, or you may be a leader in your larger family. All of you are having an influence, because leadership is influence, over at least one other. I'm sure of it. Or you're a leader in even what you post and share on social media that has an impact and influence on many. So here's why I say that. As leaders, one of the most important things you can do in times like these, in the most difficult of circumstances, is have a non-anxious presence for those around you. It's one of the best things you can do to support your friends, your family, your spouses, your loved ones, your significant others, those on social media. Have a non-anxious presence. And how do you have a non-anxious presence? There's nothing more calming for those around you. So what I'm attempting to model for my wife, Kate, and our kids is a non-anxious presence. By staying present, by staying full of peace, by staying full of joy, by staying full of gratitude. So how do you have a non-anxious presence? Don't be anxious. That's the best way to have a non-anxious presence, to not be anxious. So how do you not be anxious? I'm going to end our time with 4 things you can do to position yourself to not be anxious and to live in a beautiful state. And you've heard these before. Number 1, be grateful. Express gratitude. Write notes of gratitude. Send texts of gratitude. The mail system, to my knowledge, is still working. Write a card or a thank you note or encouragement to others. Be grateful. Express gratitude. Number 2, do a morning routine that grounds you or primes you before you read the headlines. Before you read the headlines, do your morning routine, whatever that is: prayer, meditation, scripture reading, reading a book that's positive, journaling, whatever you do to ground you or prime you, to position you to be full of love and joy and peace and being present. The third is choose your focus. Choose your focus. If you focus on the craziness of what's going on in the world, it will drive you crazy. But if you focus on loving others, if you focus on being present, and some of you may be able to read what's going on in the world and it not take it in, not have it infect your spirit or your heart. If you can do that, you probably don't have a significant issue with taking in all the headlines. But if you do, then the 4th one is minimize anxiety-producing things. And for some of you, that may be headlines, that may be social media, but minimize that which produces the greatest stress or anxiety for you. As you do that, I think you'll be positioning yourself to live in a beautiful state. So let me close with this. As fear knocks on the door, let faith answer. As fear knocks on the door, let faith answer. Faith over fear, poise over panic. As you do this, you'll be a non-anxious presence to others, and you'll be a beacon of light. And that's your thought for the day. And we are on the hour, so we'll end on that note. I do have